What's up, y'all? I welcome you to the Vibes of Fiction podcast. Vibes of Fiction is a blog and video series turned podcast that analyzes and alchemizing fiction, and you're listening to CeeCee Jones, the creator. And this is episode 4. I wanted to talk about the political sci-fi you need to have your eyes on. But first, the show is called Paradise. It came out in 2025. Um, There will be a second season, but 2026. It was amazing, nonetheless. There's only 7 episodes. Cause that's the new format of a lot of new shows. Which I hate because we need to bring back 20 episode seasons. I don't care what nobody say. But that's not what the podcast episode is about. First, let me tell you how I got into Paradise. Paradise been sitting in my list on Hulu for a hot little minute, but my mom, she started watching it, and then she was like, "You need to watch this too. You're gonna love this show." And she binge watched all 7 episodes in like a day. And she don't normally do that because she's not the TV watcher. I am. So here we are. But let's get into the vibes. Um, First I want to say the vibration for this is resentment. And I say this because this vibration is literally within every single character, and it kind of fuels everything that they do. But I'm also going to tell you how to use this vibration and alchemize it in your life. Because to be honest, I think everybody got a little bit of resentment about something. But before we get into that, we gotta talk about Paradise. First, I'm gonna just give you the rundown. Paradise follows this secret service agent who he's the right hand man to the president. Okay, but first, let me give you some context of that. They've been so close post show. And I say post because America is now the apocalypse. Okay, this is where the show was kind of confusing because the world ended. I'm not going to tell you how because, to be honest, that's a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm not going to get into that. But the world ended due to some stuff happening that I think low-key might have been preventable, if you ask me. And to be honest, that's another thing about the show. I'm not patriotic, but it made me be patriotic because I'm sitting here thinking, would America do any of this? Is this the country I know? With all the colonization, slavery, all the fighting we do now, the glorified American dream, with all these things, do I think we as a country will take any of the actions we did in the show? I'm not so sure. Which is why I find the show unique. And like I said, it's political sci-fi, but it's not like Star Wars or if you read the book Revolution 19, it's not like that. It's literally like if Scandal was put in a futuristic sense. Which, do we need Olivia Pope to be acting normal in the apocalypse? I don't know. But boom. So America ended, well, the world did. So America took 20,000 people and put them inside a mountain in Colorado, and they made basically a new America. It's this city, it only holds that amount of people. These people were carefully handpicked, which we're gonna get into that too. And nobody talks about what happened before. They had to replace different things such as cheese. Cheese isn't real cheese, it's nut cheese because it's literally made out of like cashews or something. And there are other things like that that are happening. And since the city is built inside of this mountain, they have to have an artificial sun that's like really good tech, so to speak. They got a fake weather, like literally there's one person manning this machine that be like, oh, it's gonna rain. Oh, we're gonna roll in the clouds, or it's gonna be sunny today. They do stuff like that. And they have to create fake insect sounds because they can't have real bugs because it's a mountain. Okay. They have fake ducks. Just they just do all these things to make it seem like everything is fine. Matter of fact, if you read the comic Everything is Fine on Webtoon, this is so similar to that. Just in a White House context. So yeah, for my people who love Everything is Fine on Webtoon, this is the show for you. Matter of fact, that should get the show too. But that's a whole nother episode. Okay, but look, so they gotta recreate all this stuff to make things seem normal. But everybody being watched. All the whole population, they have to wear these watches that's keeping track of them, their vitals, all of that. But let's be honest, it's just surveillance. And there's no weapons in this new world either, which is fucked. I'm not gonna lie. But, okay, back to the Secret Service agent, which is, this is really his story. His name is Xavier Collins. If you know, you know. Like I said, the vibration is resentment. I'm just give you a quick rundown of what that means for Xavier. Now, when there's an apocalypse, it's not that just everything you know is destroyed. Everybody has everything they know being destroyed. It's not just you, it's now everyone who survived have to live like that. Matter of fact, The Last of Us illustrates this well, especially with titling the game The Last of Us. That's cold as fuck. Okay, like there's so many entendres in that title alone, but they truly act like they're the last people, but they don't take that with any grace or gratitude. It's such a harsh environment in The Last of Us, and everybody is cold, as they rightfully should be. Paradise. Paradise is different because, to be honest, I feel like they won't accept the truth of the matter, which is they're now in a post apocalyptic world. They're trying to pretend like it didn't happen, but you can't. Because, bringing it back to Xavier, he had to lose his wife, he had to leave the White House, he had to literally leave, he had to abandon a bunch of White House workers who've been serving our country with the ultimate amount of loyalty just to get ditched. And no, this couldn't be helped or stopped, and I don't blame the president or our government for making the decision to do that in this show because with a place that can only hold 20,000 people, this is the only way that it can be. And it's just a shit sandwich for everybody. Nobody wins in this show. But as I said, Xavier lost his wife, and they have two kids, a son and a daughter. Okay, I know that this man resents the president for that even being the thing because you would think being literally the president, I mean, leader of the free world, you would think that that means, hey, at least my wife and kids can be safe too. If I gotta keep protecting this man even as the world is ending. But no, it did not mean that. And I think the resentment he harbors for that isn't just towards the president itself. I think it's towards America as a country. I think from the moment that happened, now he realizes it's not a democracy. And this resentment, it's like a pot that you put on boil. If you watch it, you don't, you're not going to see it start boiling. You can watch a pot forever, but the moment you look away, that's when you start to hear the bubbles, and that's exactly what happened with Xavier Collins. But like I said, I'm not gonna get too deep into spoilers. Just know he's him. Okay, like he's literally fucking him. Okay, like what this man was willing to go through just to figure out the truth, because the point of the show isn't really about the apocalypse. I forgot to say this. The point is the president was mysteriously assassinated in this realm of no weapons. Everybody's accounted for, except for 2 hours, the surveillance in the White, well, the new version of the White House, I guess you can say, is gone offline, and we have no clue why the president is suddenly dead, especially under Xavier's watch, because he's an amazing Secret Service agent. Okay, we gotta talk about his homeboy Billy Pace. And can I just say, Billy Pace is like the one of the coldest names ever. Like, oh my god, that's so cold. Pace. Oh, I just love Pace so much. That's tough. But look, Billy Pace, he is Xavier's right hand man. They're besties. And I mean, this man is basically an uncle to his kids. It's sad to say that they actually only met since the world ended. So Billy didn't get to meet Xavier's wife, and I really, really wish that he did, because oh my god, it would have been the cute little blended family. If you watch the Million Little Things, you know that that is a peak friend group, and I feel like they could have been that. But with the world ending and all. But I actually made a post about this on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and I think I might have posted this on Twitter too. Which follow me in all them places. RT Vibes, except on Twitter is CeeCee Jones 19. But yeah, Billy Pace. Oh, he's such a tortured soul, and his resentment goes so deep to the point that once this apocalypse happened, he wasn't mad that the world was ending. He was just so happy to finally have this fresh start, because he resented everything that the old world stood for and allowed to happen to him. And I mean, he had a terrible childhood. He's been in the system since he's been a child. I mean, from juvenile to jail for many years until now he's this adult. And they were like, you know what? We can do something with some of you guys. Some of y'all look like you know how to fight. And now we have Billy Pace working in Secret Service. But of course, this was just to prepare for the apocalypse happening, which this ain't a spoiler, but of course, the government knew before America as a whole knew. And it's safe to say that that probably happened globally, because this is what governments do, as they should, because civil panic is a very real thing, and you can't get nothing done in that level of chaos. You just can't. So I'm not too mad at that. It's just messed up how many people are affected by that. But that's something else. But Billy, he's a cold blooded killer. Okay, you know that from the moment you see him. This ain't spoiling nothing, because you can look at this man and just know. Okay, like Full Metal Jacket. Okay, which works for him. Being in the Secret Service, you would want somebody like that. But Billy has so many demons that he left in the old world that it's like they're always going to haunt him. And there's some stuff he had to do being part of Secret Service in this new, because it's no longer a democracy in paradise. Now it's more like a oligarchy ran by literally the elite. People always say that they're afraid of this happening in America, but I'm in this show it quite literally did. This is only billionaires. The president, he don't even really get a say so. He's just a face for the people, to be honest. But that's the case in general, I would like to say. But that's another podcast episode. But a whole nother thing. Okay, but Billy Pace, I've come to realize this man don't have any loyalty except to Xavier and his family. And that's real. Like the bond they have is so authentic, so deep, and I just love that for them. And I don't want to spoil, but I hate that the friendship had to go sour in the way that it did. But can I just say that since Billy has a lot of resentment towards the old world, what he desired the most was family, it was a normal life. So now that they're in paradise, he kind of has that. Like I said, Xavier's family became his family. He's literally an uncle to these kids, and it's an amazing thing that they have. And one of the last times we see Billy on screen, he got to have that family. I feel like he fulfilled his desire despite anything else that happened in the show. And I love that for him, even with the way that things ended in season one. But speaking of Billy, we gotta talk about motherfucking Jane. Oh, Jane real. I can't be mad at her because she's literally real as fuck. I mean, like, you can't get realer than that. Okay, like, when I think of the word badass, I dream of her because she good at what she do. I'm not gonna hold you. I didn't see anything with her coming, and I realized she ain't got no loyalty to nobody either but herself. And I can't be mad at her about that. Cause somebody gotta be loyal to you who might as well be you. But I think she's in this position because I think she resents authority. I feel like now with the position that she's in it because she resents every instance that she wasn't respected being this cold person at the things she's do. Like she's highly skilled. You literally would never have seen anything she do coming. So why are they playing with her? Like, and with that being said, she had to show them she's not somebody meant to be played with by the end of the season. Specifically, she showed this to Sinatra, which we gotta talk about Sinatra. You know what's interesting? I actually love her character. She's so flawed, so morally gray that quite literally you do not know what side she's on. I don't think she's this monster, but at the same time, she literally has to play into that role because she's in so much desperation and scarcity. And when you're in that vibration, that's all you can think to do. Notice how scarcity is um similar to the words scavenger, savage. Let's keep that in mind. Okay, words mean things. So with that being said, she take actions like that and she looks like the shittiest person there, but at the same time she's making these decisions. She created paradise. And what's interesting is she did that with the desire of building a world for her children, especially with her lore. Oh my gosh, she's been through so much leading up to this moment. But when she had to act like nobody else going through too much, that's where she fuck up. That's where she go wrong. And that's when she be getting into these powerless moments that she gotta make decisions because she's in power, but they're not good for her. That's why she's ended in that hospital bed in the last episode. Because you can't win when you act like that. And even if you do, it won't last for long. And that's why somebody was gonna come for her, even if Xavier couldn't. I think Sinatra has always resented the world because of what happened to her son. And her way of trying to avenge him is creating this new world. But you cannot make heaven and hell. And I don't think she understands that because she tried so hard to do so. That's why she built paradise. Because it's all her ideas. She got the people together. And she's the one who took the threat of the world ending seriously years before it happened. And yeah, I'm going to give that to her. But speaking of Sinatra and her son, Sinatra, since she's been through a lot, she's had a lot of therapy. And that leads us to Dr. Tarabi. Can I just say in another life, this my wife? Because look, y'all might know her as Dr. Tarabi, but I know her as Carmen from the L Word. And y'all better quit playing with her. But the problem is, Dr. Tarabi, I love where her heart is, but she's the definition of insanity because America, to be honest, is in this position because it already didn't work. Like I said, I kept thinking the entire time, would my country make these decisions? They couldn't think of anything else. And especially given our history, would this be the way that things happen? Would we be in a mountain in Colorado? Or would we be in space? Or would we be doing anything that is not what we're looking at? I ask myself this question every single episode, especially every time Dr. Tarabi came on the scene, because since she's this therapist, she's really, really good at what she do. I mean, every time she spoke, I felt like she was giving me therapy. But the unfortunate problem with that is she was in charge of creating this normalcy within paradise. Sinatra might have pulled all the people together, but Dr. Tarabi is one of the people. And she took care of things such as, well, the nut cheese, or she also helped pick the people based off of profiling them psychologically and physically. And she thought about the things such as the inset sounds, the fake ducks, holidays, order. Like, she is the mastermind behind making these people feel like they didn't skip a day in America. But I realized with all the problems in this country, that is exactly why it went up. And with that being said, her trying to recreate America like it was ever paradise to begin with, I think that is insanity. Because anytime you do something over and over again and expect a different result, that is the definition of insanity. And she's so damn smart too and fine. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I think that's where she went wrong with me. Because to be honest, she was tasked with an impossible goal. Because you can't make. Matter of fact, I was thinking this the other day when I was thinking about paradise. You cannot give people normal because that is not what these people want. They don't want to feel normal. They want to survive. That is why any of these people in this situation, the way that they acted to get to this mountain in the first place, were people in fight or flight. And I know she's trying to regulate everybody nervous system, but there's no way you can do that for 20,000 people impersonally. Personally, it's just not possible. And they don't want them anyway. They want to survive. And this isn't actual living. It's so artificial. It's so simulated. It's so calculated. This is uncanny valley. And I think all these people feel that, and I don't think there's any real order you can ever have because, of course, at the moment that something went wrong, there's civil unrest. That tell me if there, it didn't take anything. So these people were always at the brink anyway, and that's what happens when people don't feel safe because they're not. Like I said, there's not even guns in this paradise, but still the president died, meaning there is no safety. That means you don't need a gun to kill. Okay, so that's where I'm at with Dr. Sarabi. And to be honest, I think resentment is interesting because resentment doesn't have to be towards a person or a thing. It could be towards concepts and ideas. And I think she resents the unhappiness that she constantly has to literally help be happy. And the thing is, with therapy, it's not even actually a strive towards happiness, just towards you're able to go through day to day enough that is not a problem. Enough that you're not burnt out. Enough that you're not too stressed that you might have an aneurysm or something. And I think what she really wants is everybody to be happy. I think she wants paradise, like quite literally. And I think she resents the world what it was before because it couldn't, everybody couldn't have that. And now that she has the chance to make it so, she's trying her hardest to do it, and her heart is in the right place. I was thinking at first, especially by the end of the show, I didn't know where her loyalties lie. Was she really fucking with Xavier or not? But I realized it was never about that with her. It's not even about being loyal to anyone for her. She's being loyal to her ideal of paradise, of heaven. And with someone like that, that's why she kept trying to egg Sinatra into certain decisions because she's like, hey, we have to keep the peace. We have to keep the idea that everything is okay because everything is fine. We have to make everything be fine. These people have to believe that. And her convention is just so interesting to me. And I love her character because we don't know where she stands, except we know where her vision lies. Ooh, there's a bar. Ah, there's a bar. Um, yeah. And let me get into the president. Now, he's my homeboy. Okay. I loved him. I love Cal. If more presidents were like him, I wonder where this country would be. And to top it off, did everything he can to soften the blow of the apocalypse because the apocalypse wasn't just weather events. It was literally nuclear war. To be honest, it was nuclear war anyway. And that was always the issue. And I think the sooner, and that's where I feel like the show's a little unrealistic because I'm thinking if America has a nuclear threat like this, would we be taking the actions we're taking? Would we instantly think, well, oh, we just try to save 20,000 people and call it a day? No, I'm thinking this is supposed to end up being World War III anyway. We should have never got to this point. But that's neither here nor there. But Cal Bradford, the President of the United States, a paradise. I feel like he was the ultimate face of America. Like, I can't remember if he was Democratic or not, but he was really progressive, though, if you ask me. And I think that's because he just values humanity. But he has always resented being president in the first place. He never wanted to be the one making these decisions. And Every time he has to make the tough decisions, specifically because the world is ending, it's like he's been backed into a corner because he never ever asked for this job. And now it literally runs every area of his life, and there's no way out because the world ended. If nothing happened, this man, his term would have ended. He wouldn't have probably ran the second time, and he would have just been okay. He probably just would have been a rich president in some mansion somewhere with a lot of land, enjoying himself. Since he's divorced, he'd probably start dating again or something. I don't know. But that's what he would have been. He would have been any average, rich, divorced guy. And he would have figured it out. He probably would have figured out exactly what made him happy, what make his life worth living. But I think he's always been wishing for death the moment he took on this role. And excuse me, not take. It was a given. It was forced upon him. So I find his resentment interesting. He resents his job, and the person who pushed him into it is his father. And they have this sordid history because he's always been building up his son to be the president of the United States. Even the way that he talk, the things that he reads, he's a man of principles, philosophy, and politics. That this was just always going to happen for his kid. Matter of fact, we're lucky he didn't become president. Speaking of which, something else that's I realize in hindsight this not unrealistic. It's actually really good writing. So his father has dementia, but he has like high level clearance to all this government information and intelligence in the old and the new world. Okay, so now that they're in paradise, this man is having memory lapses. He even forgetting who his son is at this point. Yet, he still has access to this information. Why? Would America give someone with dementia? And I mean, like I said, he's forgetting his son, who is literally the president of the new world. That is a major thing to forget. So, with that being said, should he be the one with the information? I'm not gonna spoil that because there. I see now there's reasons for that, and that's tough. But I was thinking the entire time, this the one they gonna give clearance, and not anybody else. Like that was very interesting to me. Someone I've been waiting to talk about. Robinson. Let me let's talk about her because she damn good at her job too. She's very no nonsense. She's conservative, but in a tolerable way. If you're not into conservativeness, I actually loved her character. Cause to me, I realized she wasn't a strong black woman because she's a strong black woman. She was competent. I mean, this lady's highly skilled. Her thinking processes are on 10. That's why she's in the position she's in. That's why she running shit. Okay, like yeah. But I think she messed up when she was messing with the president. I don't think she ever should have done that because I think what led her to that decision is resentment. Her being this conservative, but she's still the only black woman in the room at literally almost all times. I think she has resentment towards that because I don't think anybody can really act like that's not happening, no matter what position of power they're in. You know, when you're the only black one in the room and all the things that come with it if you are a black fiction watcher reader like me. And with that being said, once she got with the president, I think there was further resentment into that, especially since he's the president, they can't just be open with their relationship. Matter of fact, since they were open, they even suspected that she killed him at one point, which is very fucked because she loved that man, literally, and he was in love with her. I think if none of this happened, they probably could have had a long running thing together. But since she is kind of like this symbol of her resentment, like literally, he's this white man with the privilege, literally the president of the United States, who's kind of treating her like a second option. It's so messed up. But I love her character though. And that kind of resentment isn't easy because that follows you for forever, I think. And very briefly, I want to talk about the kids because number one, the kids that they say they all go to this private school kind of thing, which is interesting. It's not really private because the world ended. You can't get more private than being the last survivors. Like I don't know what we're doing with that. And yeah, but the kids, Xavier's kids are interesting because his daughter, I can't spoil, but just know she plays such a pivotal role, and I think that's because she resent what has happened to her mother and how they had to just been forced to move on because that's crazy. She needs to mourn, she needs to grieve. Her father does who her brother does, but they don't get that. And the same thing happens with Jeremy. He kind of has to move on too because this is a conspiracy. The president doesn't just die in paradise. This was carefully planned. He's assassinated. And yeah, this episode was kind of all over the place, but I don't regret it. This is only episode 4. We're gonna get more organized, but the resentment vibration. I'm gonna tell you how to use that now. Okay, first, I recommend that you watch Paradise because there's no better way to subconsciously reprogram yourself for something new than getting into some fiction. That's such the easiest way to do it. If you don't believe me, um, read The Key by Joe Fatale. He talks about how he uses stories all the time to literally hypnotize people, and that's the whole basis of vibes of fiction. That is happening. The vibes are vibrating, and they're changing your frequency, and they're implanting different beliefs into your subconscious mind, and they are reestablishing beliefs that you already have because when we look at fiction, we only look at it through a bias, which I'm gonna have to talk about bias like in a blog or something because, well, first of all, I realized with bias in particular, which kind of goes into resentment, bias is so personal because it's literally your point of view. But a caveat to that, things exist outside of you. Yes, we're viewing reality only through our eyes, but and everything is you pushed out as well. But these things are not literally you. Like as homie who I listen to on YouTube, he talks about quantum physics and the Anaki all the time. I love him so much. I can't think of his name right now, but I was just looking at his. He has a recent interview with Lewis House. Okay, but he was just talking about, and this is a very real thing. They talk about this in any high school physics class. Atoms technically don't touch. So when we feel like we are touching a surface such as a table, my mic that I'm holding, my computer I'm recording this on, I'm not actually touching them. The atoms are repelling each other, and I perceive it as I'm touching this mic or this computer, but I'm really not because since they're repelling, there's actually always a separation, and very much I think that the same thing applies to fiction too. Yes, we are viewing it. Yes, we are having all these emotions. Yes, we're having this trance-like experience, but these stories are still outside of ourselves, and we can't really touch them. There's a certain level of separation that even though we might see ourselves in it so much, we can never fully be within that. And with that being said, resentment works the same way. When you resent something, you might not even know it at first. And the best way I would say to use this vibration outside of watching Paradise, you need to figure out what you resent, and you can do this any kind of way. But I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my own fiction alchemy tool called Alchemizing the Trigger Mind. It's based off of my OG method, Inner Speech Bubble, and I'm gonna link them both down in the description. But Alchemizing the Trigger Mind is free. Inner Speech Bubble, you can get on my website. Please get. It's a really good comic. Outside of the self help tendencies of it as well, but and it can change your life. Both things, but Alchemizing the Trigger Mind. I'm gonna explain the process to you. Then you can download it below. Um, you separate your piece of paper in half, and this technique is based off the principle as below, as above, so below, so below as above. Okay, so I realize we have a conscious thought, and then that leads to an unconscious belief, and you got to go through both layers if you're going to have a new belief rewired in. So with the method, you take a piece of paper, you draw a line down the middle horizontally. So you have the top piece of paper and you label that as above, the bottom half so below. And then in each of those halves, you draw an inner speech bubble. One at the top, one at the bottom. Put them in the middle of these parts of the paper. And excuse my dog, she's crazy. Diamond, chill out. Okay, so in the top half, write your conscious thought. Since you might not know what you're resenting, just feel that feeling. What is this unhappiness, this discomfort? And label it. What is the first thought that comes to your mind? Write that statement down in the speech bubble. Now, you probably gonna have you probably have question marks over your head right now because it's me that thought that. And I'm glad that you're in that place because dive deeper into that speech bubble. What are all the thoughts, things that have been said to you, different experiences? Write them down in bullet points all around the speech bubble, like you should take up that whole top part of the space. And when you have no more, you need to sit. Sit in those thoughts, those experiences, and what is the truth of them? What is the depth of that first speech bubble? What is the biggest conclusion that it has given you? What belief do you now have because of all these things? This is what you resent. This is where the resentment truly comes from. Write down the first statement you think of in the bottom half, and then sit with that feeling and dive deeper into that. Now that you know the truth, write down the further thoughts that you have that come from that. Things that you thought recently, situations that came up recently, things you feel like may happen. Maybe some anxieties about the future, maybe about a specific person, I don't know. But write all these new thoughts now that you have the truth in the space around the bottom speech bubble until that's completely filled up. And now I want you to sit in this feeling. Recognize where it is in your body. And then once you pinpoint, do you feel a tightness in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Or do you feel something else? Once you get clear on where this deep hurt, unhappiness, this resentment is coming from, and how it shows up in your body, in your space, this is something I started adding to the method. And this first time and the only time you're going to hear it in this podcast episode, you should do Honoponopono, which I can't really explain it. It's this method, Hawaiian method of clearing yourself of this kind of negativity within this feeling. Basically, the method just follows. You say, I love you over and over. And now you might get emotional. might feel some really deep things. Allow yourself to feel whatever you feel. And every time you feel your attention starting to veer off, just go back to saying, I love you. And caveat, the other things you can say after I love you is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. You keep saying those over and over again until you feel clear of this resentment. And then you can finish the rest of the alchemizing the trigger mind method, which is, Diamond, please don't look at my knee while I'm doing this. Sit, sit, sit. Thank you. Now that you are clear, you can create a new thought. You don't have to be, you don't have to have that resentment anymore. And this can actually birth something new. Now you're going to plant the seed, and you need another piece of paper or just the back of that paper and draw a huge speech bubble that take up basically most of the paper. And this is where you need to write, what is the opposite of this resentment? What is the ideal of what you want instead of this gigantic thing you didn't know about holding you back? Write that statement down in this speech bubble. And now, every time similar situations or thoughts come up, visualize this speech bubble, because every time you do, your brain is naturally going to be like, oh, this is a symbol I need to pay attention to. These are words I need to memorize. Because we do that when we read comics, manga, anytime we see speech bubbles, it works just like any other good symbol, like the stop sign or a really good logo. And yeah, this repetition, and matter of fact, I'd even go further, you can draw it in the mornings, like in a journal or something. Just draw this speech bubble with your statement. Feel what it feels like. Visualize it, or as Joe Vitale says in his book, never lies the inner speech bubble. Maybe how it shows up in your day, maybe how you manifest a specific thing. I don't know. It's your choice. And this will create the reality you seek. And you can do that using the vibration of resentment. And this is CeeCee. You were listening to the Vibes of Fiction podcast. And yeah, that's all I got for you today until the next episode. And peace.